there. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Audrey Williams. We have a very informative program lined up for you today that you simply cannot miss. Stay tuned. The news is up next.
Do you know what a disability is? A permanent loss of function in any part of your body is called a disability. Some people are born that way. Others get a disability because of an illness or an accident. This doesn't have to prevent you from living a full life. The Disabilities Act will protect your right to work, raise families, or do business like anyone else. Visit jcpdja.com. A message from the JCPD, an agency of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, March 19, 2021. Come Monday, the nation should expect more restrictions in an attempt to reduce COVID-19 infections, which now average at a daily positivity rate of 30%. The warning came last evening from Prime Minister Andrew Holness during his contribution in the 2021-22 budget debate in the House of Representatives. Mr. Holness said the decision to strengthen the measures comes against the background of COVID-19 hospitalizations, now exceeding the number of beds available by as much as 15% in some instances. Bed capacity has increased from 15 in March 2020, when Jamaica's first confirmed case was reported, to 600 currently.
I will be announcing a new set of stronger measures designed to protect our healthcare system and save lives in the short term, which eventually protects and preserves our economy and livelihoods in the long term.
Consequently, Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie also on Thursday tabled amendments to the Disaster Risk Management Act. Among the amendments is the implementation of a new ticketing system for the enforcement of infection prevention and control measures. Mr. Holness said government is prepared to have the bill reviewed by a joint select committee on the weekend for it to be debated and passed next week.
This would make the new measures more effective if we have this amendment in place.
The current provisions expire on March 22. Also effective next week, individuals 75 years and older will be able to register and make an appointment for their COVID-19 vaccination. This as the Ministry of Health and Wellness signed a contract with ITEL BPO Smart Solutions to manage the vaccination, registration and appointment process, which will be made available via telephone. The signing took place yesterday at the Ministry's Emergency Operating Center in New Kingston.
This registration option will become available on Monday, March 22nd, 2021. So if you're 75 years old and over, if your mother is 75 years old and over, your father, your uncle, your brother, and you want to help them, if you don't think they're listening, we ask the media to help us with that. Come Monday, you call this number and you will get, on the other end, a response.
Those within the age cohort may call the 888-1LOVE number to register and make an appointment to receive their vaccination at a convenient site across the country. Dr. Tufton noted that the operations of the BPO support will be guided by the World Health Organization's protocols for managing such a process.
And we will have checks and balances to validate the data that gives us the information to assess, to ensure that we protect the public's health and the confidentiality issues. All of that will be based on standard protocols around immunization and standard protocols around patient rights and for their personal information.
Meanwhile, Jamaica's public debt has remained flat during the past year despite major fall in revenue and increase in expenditure as a result of COVID-19. At the start of the 2020-21 fiscal year, cash reserves stood at approximately $90 billion, which allowed the government at the onset of the pandemic to finance a 3.5% fiscal deficit. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the country has also been able to maintain its highest credit rating in 20 years from Standard & Poor's and in 14 years from Fitch, while many other nations have suffered downgrades. He adds that maintaining the country's macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability in the face of the most severe health and economic crisis the world has experienced in nearly 100 years did not happen by chance.
We were able to do this because our buffers that we had built up over prudent fiscal management over a number of years.
Students preparing to sit the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate (CSEC) examinations and the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination (CAPE now have free access to the OneX platform until June 30. This is part of efforts by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information to support students in grades 11, 12, and 13 who are sitting these exams. The OneX platform gives students access to over 40,000 exam-style questions and solutions. Students can also access e-book past papers and videos of syllabuses with accompanying quizzes. The Education Ministry says each subject is also assigned skill gap diagnostic tests, which are designed to identify gaps between current and desired abilities. For more information or queries, call 876-613-9198. You may also send a WhatsApp to 876-809-4197 or an email to onexsupport@oneononelms.com. Students are set to benefit from over $4 billion in scholarships and tuition assistance under the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information's 2021-2022 recurring budget. Of that amount, $4.2 billion in grants will fund tuition for secondary level students, $47 million at the tertiary level, and $7.3 million at the primary level. Meanwhile, $365 million will go towards the Teachers Education Mathematics Scholarship Program. A further $170 million has been allocated to provide financial assistance to students at the secondary and tertiary levels. This includes $133 million in stipends for students registered under the Jamaica Values and Attitudes Program, JAMVAT. Through JAMVAT, students at the tertiary level are engaged in 200 hours of community service to offset 30% of their tuition fees. And finally, persons in relationships who believe they are experiencing intimate partner violence are being encouraged to access screening from the Victim Services Division, VSD, in the Ministry of Justice. Executive Director Osborne Bailey told JIS News that screening seeks to assess whether a person's relationship is abusive and to what extent.
We take you through the screening process and will assist you in the counseling process. So if you don't like what's going on now, you're uncertain about what is being said to you, how it's being said, and what is happening, and you're not sure, because you're so in love, you're not sure that it is violent, you can go through the screening process. Call VSD, we take you through it online and be able to provide you with requisite counseling and referral to the relevant authorities, police, court for the necessary action to be taken.
According to Mr. Bailey, between January 2020 and February 2021, the division saw 884 clients who were victims of domestic violence. Mr. Bailey is encouraging both males and females who may be experiencing intimate partner violence to call the VSD at 876-946-0663 or 888-VICTIMS. That's 888-842-8467. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
The Forestry Department is leading the implementation of the National Tree Planting Initiative, which seeks to plant 3 million trees in 3 years, one for each Jamaican plus a little extra for good measure. So I'm inviting each Jamaican to visit our nurseries across the island and collect your tree seedling and make your mark towards this great goal for Jamaica.
The education sector in Jamaica has been negatively impacted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Institutions have had to discover creative ways to keep children motivated to learn. Here's how the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information intends to strengthen the sector through its 2021-2022 financial allocation.
The fact is, with nearly 1,000 public schools throughout Jamaica, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information has a huge mandate and wide areas of responsibility.
The government is keen on meeting these objectives and has allocated over $118 billion for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. With an allocation of $1.16 billion to capital budget,
I am looking forward to working with all the stakeholders to ensure that our educational system continues the transformation that Jamaicans want to see.
$813 million will target the construction of classrooms at 11 high schools, 1 all-age and 1 infant school. It also covers the construction of perimeter fencing, upgrading of electrical systems, and the completion of pre-contractual arrangements. The program, which started April 2020, will be completed in March 2023. Another $210 million is earmarked to continue the build-out of the Mount St. Joseph Catholic High School. This is part of the Education Transformation Program to alleviate overcrowding and the shift system at this and other institutions. Meanwhile, $120 million will be used to complete the establishment of a diagnostic center at the College of Agriculture, Science and Education, CASE. Construction will also be completed on a wastewater system and biodigester at the facility. The program is being implemented by the National Education Trust. And Phase 2 of rehabilitation work on the ministry's Canewood and National Hero Circles premises will continue at a cost of $20 million. The ministry is also assigning funds from its recurrent budget to ensure children and young people have the best shot at an effective learning environment. $4.64 billion will provide scholarships and tuition assistance at the primary, secondary, and tertiary levels. $365 million is also included to provide mathematics scholarships for teachers. An additional $170.7 million has also been allocated to provide financial assistance at the secondary and tertiary levels. The provision also includes $133 million to meet the cost of stipend for students registered under the Jamaica Values and Attitudes Program, JAMVAT. Through JAMVAT, students at the tertiary level engage in 200 hours of community service to offset 30% of their tuition. The Education Ministry also has oversight of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA. In the new financial year, $2.8 billion will continue its work to strengthen policies, legislation, and systems for the holistic development, care, and protection of children. All these and more are programmed under the agenda for the Ministry of Education, Youth, and Information in the 2021-2022 fiscal year.
The numbers keep climbing, and yet some of you are still complaining about curfew times. Is that being selfish, or are you being smart? You continue to blame the government, stating they are not doing enough. But the big question is, are you doing your part to help decrease the spread? The unfortunate reality is that far too many people refuse to take the coronavirus pandemic seriously until they or someone they love gets infected. Now, this is what we do not want, and I don't believe I can stress this enough. Wear your mask, sanitize. Of course, we love to hug and socialize, but just ease off some of that right now. Not just for your safety, but also for others. It look hard for your relatives to be home doing all they need to in order not to catch the virus, and you out on the road being reckless and carrying it right home to them. Each one of us needs to help during this fight against COVID-19 as we work to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business in a healthy environment.
The Grade 6 Primary Exit Profile PEP Ability Test is just around the corner, and we've got a few tips to get you ready. You can do this.
We're so close to the PEP exams that I can almost feel the nerve. But feeling nervous is natural, unless you haven't been studying. You are studying, right? Yes, some of us have been and some of us haven't. I have some tips that will get you preparation ready. Get it?
The first step is to study. Get your books, pencils, and tablet and go to a quiet area. My mom makes me study at the same time every day, so it's like a routine now. I suggest that you do it as well. Also, ask for help if you don't understand a question. Here's the next tip. Prepare your pencils and eraser and everything else that you need for the exam before going to bed. Then go to your bed early and get a good night's sleep. Wake up early the morning of the exam. Being late can cause you to become anxious. Also, have a filling breakfast. You don't want to be hungry while doing the exam. Ask mommy or daddy to take you to the examination center early. And remember, the new date for the ability test is May 26.
The administration of the ability test will be in all primary level institutions, presided over by external persons contracted by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Given that our grade 6 students will only be required to take the ability test component of the PEP 6, how do we know who goes to what high school? We will use the same methodology we did last year. So having used the ability test and the performance task exams from grade 4 to place our students in high school, what arrangements are there for the makeup of areas of the grade 6 curriculum that were not covered? The ministry will administer diagnostic tests, not to be confused with the ability tests, at the grade 6 level to gather data on the students' achievements of the national standard curriculum. Data from this assessment will be sent to the high schools in which the students are placed. This diagnostic instrument will be administered by classroom teachers. You may be aware that the National Standards Curriculum allows for the aspects of the curriculum that were not covered at the primary level to be covered at the secondary level at grade 7. This would require, however, that the number of school days be increased.
Finally, while you are doing your PEP exams, relax and do your best. You've got this. I believe in you.
To properly carry out a hand rub, apply a palmful of the product in your cupped hand, covering all surfaces. Rub your hands palm to palm. Rub your right palm over the back of your left hand with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Rub your hands palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Rub the back of your fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked. Rotationally rub backwards and forwards the clasped fingers of your right hand in your left palm and vice versa. Once your hands are dry, they are now safe.
Bacteria, viruses, germs, whatever you want to call it, they are everywhere. And I mean everywhere, especially on your devices that we use all day, every day. While it's important for us to sanitize our hands after touching surfaces, it's also important that we sanitize our devices.
Android, iOS, non-internet based. It doesn't matter the brand, type, model, or cost. Phones need to be periodically cleaned. There are no apps, not yet, that will de-germ the outer surface of these mobile gadgets. And unless you have an ultraviolet UV sanitizer toolkit, you'll have to manually decontaminate the device. Germs are everywhere, and so too are our phones, inside a bag or pocket, on a table or counter, the car, bed, even in our hands. Placing our phones on these surfaces puts them in constant contact with germs, even the novel coronavirus. And according to the World Health Organization, the virus has a lifespan of up to 96 hours on surfaces. That's 4 full days on plastic or metals, the type of exterior shell of many phones. Constant touching of the phone with naked fingers that we then use to touch our faces, or directly placing the phone to our faces is a recipe for transmitting germs, bacteria, or viruses to the body.
First thing I do when I get home is I clean my phone. Because you're touching your phone and you're touching this surface that somebody else just touched, and then you put the phone to your mouth and you ha. And all of these particles that have ended up on the phone, they end up in you.
Apart from just not using a phone, our only defense is to clean them regularly. Soap and water would be best, but no, you should not submerge your phone in liquid. Instead, first wash your hands with soap and water, then dry them. Ensure that your phone is unplugged to prevent a possible electrical shock. Then, dab a clean cloth, preferably a microfiber or lens cloth, with a 70% isopropyl alcohol solution, and wipe the entire surface of your phone. Do not drench the cloth with too much solution, just sufficient to clean the device. In addition, be careful to avoid getting moisture into any openings. If you don't have an alcohol-based cleaning solution at hand, you can also use alcohol wipes. You should ensure the wipes have a relatively high concentration of alcohol. The best is 70% and above. This ensures that any viruses that are on your phone can be effectively killed. While you sanitize your phone, avoid using aerosol sprays, abrasives, and cleaners. And do not spray directly onto the phone screen or back. Bleach should also not be used to clean the phone, as it may damage the surface. It is also best to wipe any relevant accessories used with your phone. Chargers, headsets, and phone cases should be sanitized at the same time you clean your device. They should also be removed from the device when cleaning. Now your phone and its friends are clean. To prevent putting your phone against your face or the likelihood of transferring germs or viruses, use Bluetooth, a virtual assistant, or hands-free speaker system if you can.
To the news. The taxi is full and I don't want to catch corona.
You can't squeeze in yourself.
No, sir. It's okay. I'll wait. I have to protect myself from the coronavirus.
You're going to be late for school anyway.
It's better to be late and safe. Just last month I was running down the stairs for classes, but my school has reopened. Are you going back to physical school too? Do you have to take public transportation? If you answered yes, I have some tips for you. Just a few guidelines to help you stay healthy and COVID-19 free while taking public transportations. First, remind mommy and daddy to check the news for any public transportation changes. Make sure you have your mask and sanitizer before you leave your house. Your sanitizer should have at least 60% alcohol. Also, bring extra masks in a clean and sealable bag. Make sure you wear your mask while on the road or in a taxi. I don't mean under your chin or below your nose. It should look like mine. It should cover your nose and mouth. Still practice social distancing. If a taxi has space to carry just 4 persons, it should carry 1 less. So you should be the 3rd person, not the 4th. Do not take off your mask in public. Always keep it on. Don't touch surfaces, but if you have to, wash your hands with soap and water. Take taxis or buses with the windows down so that there is proper ventilation. That means there is a steady flow of fresh air. As soon as you reach your destination, get out of the vehicle and go straight home. Don't stop to play with your friends. And when you get home, go straight to the bathroom to have a shower before touching anything or anyone. And also, if you are sick, just stay home. Yay! A taxi that's following COVID guidelines.
Practice good hygiene by washing your hands frequently using soap and water. Here's how you should do it while conserving water. Turn on the tap to wet your hands, then turn off the pipe. Lather your hands and the tap with soap. Turn on the tap and wash your hands, back, front, and in between fingers. Use some of the water to wash off the tap, then turn it off. Dry your hands with disposable hand towels. If you don't have running water, use a hand rub containing 62% or more alcohol. If hand sanitizers are not available, rubbing alcohol, Dettol, white rum, or household bleach will do the trick. And if all else fails, let hand washing and the handling of potable water be a two-person event. Each person will take turns pouring and washing hands with sitting water. Now is a good time to consider installing a tap on your containers to reduce the risk of water contamination. Faucets can be easily attached to drums, buckets, or 5-gallon water bottles. And to ensure that the outside of the containers are clean when recapping, disinfect it with hand rub containing alcohol that's 62% or more. The 5 R's of water conservation are also necessary to practice. Reduce water wastage by investing in water-saving devices. Reuse water at least twice before discarding. Replace leaking pipes, faucets, and other plumbing equipment. Recycle wastewater and use it for gardening, car washing, or cleaning of public spaces. And reclaim water through rainwater harvesting. We all must play our part to ensure there's water to combat the coronavirus and stave off prolonged drought.
Thank you for joining us on today's show. As always, I hope you've learned a thing or two. Visit our website at jis.gov.jm and follow us on all social media platforms for more informative content. Remember to sanitize your phone to prevent the spread of pathogens, and I hope you'll be 100% ready for your PEP exam with the tips that we have provided. I'm Audrey Williams. Have a great weekend. This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.